Hey everybody, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. Today it's going to be Astyanax for the NES. And we're going to skip through all this story stuff and go straight into the game. I've actually previously done a long play of this game. This is one of the earlier long plays I did, probably in 2010 or 2011 or something like that. But we're going to revisit it again for a Let's Play where I play it live for you guys and talk about it on the fly. So Astyanax is loosely based on the arcade game of the same name. It is a game that is very much like Legendary Axe for the TurboGrafx-16. It's got a very similar combat system. I'm not sure if the game was made by the same developers or not, but basically what happens is if you don't attack, you've got this power meter that charges up. And basically the higher up the power meter is, the stronger your attack is. So you can attack really quickly, you know, just as fast as you want, really, but you do very light damage. And that's fine for very small enemies, but for bigger enemies, you're probably best charging up your power meter and trying to unleash really strong attacks so you can kill your enemies in a couple of hits instead of 20 hits or something like that. So you've also got actually a magic meter in the bottom portion of the screen. And you can activate your magic by pressing up and attack, which is B. And yeah, you can actually hit start and select through a variety of spells as well. This one right here is a stopwatch, and it's actually the most useful spell in the game. It makes you invincible to everything around you, and it stops time. So what you can do is you can stop time and then basically just walk through enemies that are giving you a hard time. The other one is actually this lightning spell, and it does some damage, but the stopwatch one is definitely the most useful overall. So yeah, I mean that's actually Astyanax in a nutshell. You can jump, obviously, but you can really just attack left, attack right, and duck and attack in both directions as well. And that's it. It's not a terribly complex system, which is, you know, to be expected for an NES game. But as you could probably tell, this game has huge sprites. Some of the biggest sprites on the NES, actually. And despite the sprites being huge, the game actually plays pretty well, if you ask me. It might be a little awkward if you're not used to it, but I think the game actually plays quite well. And it actually holds up pretty well, too. I think it's a pretty solid game. The story is really cheesy, but I do think the graphics are really nice, and the game controls fine too. Your character is kind of slow, but you know that's the nature of a character that takes up, you know, a third of the screen. So, and again, like I said, we're gonna be skipping through all the story segments and whatnot. Those actually take up a good portion of the game, much like say Ninja Gaiden on the NES. This game has pseudo cutscenes. Although they're not done nearly as well in this game as they are in, say, in Ninja Gaiden. So, they're not really worth watching, honestly. But they are there if you want some story in your game. Yeah, we're going to be skipping through those. If you guys actually really want to see, you know, the cutscenes, just feel free to check out my long play of this game. Or check out somebody else's long play. Or check out a commentary-free long play elsewhere. So these skeletons are actually kind of annoying. Starting on level 2, basically, they have a tendency of blocking. And there's going to be an enemy popping up right here. Bam. So that guy would not have been able to kill in one hit if I didn't have my weapon charged. So I like to just leave my my weapon charged and then attack as the enemies appear, because then I'm more likely to kill them in one hit, or sometimes 2 hits, depending. These skeletons always take a lot of hits, so you can sort of just form your own strategy for them. And it's not boss time. So as the game goes on, well, you'll notice the first level we played, it was basically just one long screen, we fought a mini-boss, and then it took us to the main boss. As the game goes on, you go through more stages before you fight an actual boss. All main bosses in this game have the black backgrounds on them, and the main bosses are usually pretty big. They take up a large portion of the screen, which actually I always thought was pretty cool. It's always good to see bosses on like an old 8-bit system that really are massive. Because in a lot of 8-bit games, if bosses were huge, usually there was a lot of flicker and stuff like that, or maybe in the case of like Low G-Man, the the frame rate's kind of wonky and everything just kind of feels weird. But the occasional game like Astyanax will have really big bosses on the NES, and there's not a crap ton of flicker. The frame rate is still high, and the controls are still good. So that's really cool, I think. Wow, man, the stopwatch is really the best weapon in this game. Back in the day, what I would do, I actually had this game back in the day. I bought it really cheap. It was one of those games I bought with my summer lawn mowing funds or lemonade stand funds. I don't remember how I got the money. It was either mowing lawns for my neighbors or, concocting a lemonade stand and trying to sell lemonade in the hot months at the top of my street. That's how I bought some of my video games back in the day. A couple games were actually... ooh, that was bad. I just lost a life for that. Astyanax was one of those games. And back when I bought it, it was like $10 brand new at stores. The NES was so popular. It was just like any other, system these days where you can get $10 brand new games, for games that are a couple of years old or something like that. The NES was no different back in the day. You had a lot of games that were in the bargain bin, basically. So this game was one of them that I got, $10. Dr. Chaos on the NES was another one. So there's a lot of games like this that I actually had as a kid that I ended up buying with my own money once in a while. But yeah, back in the day, I would always just use the fire spell. And the problem with the fire spell is that it takes up like half of your magic meter, and the stopwatch I found out recently is actually a lot better because it uses up less magic, and it makes you invincible to any enemy on the screen or projectile. And you can just, use it, stop the enemies, and if it's in the case of like a boss or something like that, you can just attack the boss normally when you use the stopwatch, and it actually will do more damage than using your fire spell. So it actually makes more sense to use the stopwatch, or I don't even know what you would call it, because it's not really a stopwatch when you look at it. The freeze time. I'm going to call it freeze time. So throughout this entire playthrough, I'm going to be just using the freeze time ability. We'll call it that for the rest of the game. So I can use it right here and just walk right through this guy. And you can jump and attack at the same time. So you can constantly be moving forward and attacking, which is nice. For those of you guys that like to try to keep the pace of your games up, maybe you speedrunners out there. Oh, that was bad. I wanted to get that that item up there. Alright, boss time. Which boss is this? This dude, okay. So you'll notice I've actually picked up multiple weapons. You start with an axe, and then you go to this like wand kind of weapon. I don't know what you would call it. Oh, I died. That's not good. I'm actually dying more than I normally would. Normally I don't get knocked down pits, and normally I don't die at bosses. But see, here's actually, I guess technically this is still kind of a sword. It's kind of a weird looking sword. So realistically what I should be doing when I play this game is just playing a little less risky. Like the first time I came through this stage, I was just trying to jump over these dudes, basically trying to skip them. And, you know, if you want to keep your health up, you really don't want to try to do that, unless, again, you're trying to speedrun the game or something like that. Although I can't imagine this game being terribly exciting speedrunning, because, I mean, your guy walks pretty slow. I mean, just doesn't matter. It's there's no debate. Your guy is pretty slow, and so I'm not really sure how exciting this would be to try to speedrun, but I was messing around there for a little bit. I was trying to jump over those guys and take the fast way. So you just walk right through them. When you use the stop time ability, you can just go right through the enemies. Oh, that was actually a bad idea. Now I'm experimenting. I'm like, what can I get away with when I use the stopwatch or stop time ability? Because literally, you become invulnerable to everything on screen. It's crazy. Now, for those of you guys that have not played the arcade version, it's vastly different from this game. It's considerably harder, but there's a heck of a lot more going on in that game. And this dude sped up. He never speeds up for me. Normally I kill him before this even happens. I've actually never even seen this happen. Because normally I get to this guy with the third power-up, which is your actual sword, like your thick sword. And try to skip through the story. Yep. Alright, so this is where the game starts to get more challenging, and this level has a tendency of giving me trouble. So we'll see what happens here. You start having enemies that actually throw projectiles out at you. And you got these fish dudes that basically jump out of the water. So you really want to take this level pretty slow, and it looks like these guys just constantly respawn. That's not good. One thing you can do is use your stopwatch again. Because again, makes you invincible. That's one strategy. Like right here. Oh, why did I do that, man? I was trying to kill that that eyeball thing, and I paid the price for it. And that was a really, really dumb mistake that could have been completely avoided. You'll notice that if you try to attack an enemy when you're really, really close to them, you actually do this thing where you sort of brace your sword like right above your face. And it does the same amount of damage, I believe, but it basically stops you. You can't move when you're doing that. And it's just something that happens when you're right next to an enemy, so you gotta watch out for that. It's especially bad if you're trying to jump over a pit and you happen to attack an enemy, but if you attack so close to them, you won't be able to move after you do your attack. You'll be sort of frozen and you'll probably end up just falling down that pit, which obviously isn't good, because pits in this game are instant death, and really it's the only thing in the game that causes instant death. There are no, like, hazards on the ground or anything like that. It's just endless pits, and that's it. Wow, I can't use any magic now. I got 5 blocks, but every spell takes up too much. So these little bracelets you pick up, they actually, I think they are the ones that increase your overall power level. I think. Good, knocked him down the pit, that's good. Makes my life easier. So you really want to take these levels kind of carefully. Because just one false move and you're down a pit or something like that. Like, there's a lot of enemies that just kind of appear out of the ground, but not until you get, like, right next to them. Like those guys right there. So you really gotta watch out for that. Oh, come on, skeleton, go away. Thank you. And funny enough, this guy has the stopwatch ability too. But I can use it on him. Alright, I think this is boss time now. Yeah. This guy's not too bad. He drops these little plant things, but you can destroy them. And that's it. We're actually getting relatively close to the end of the game now. It's either one more set of rounds or two more. I think it's two more sets of rounds. Yeah, so I think we go through this level, then I think we go through another vertical level. And then we'll be at basically our final set of stages. So you can see my power meter is basically maxed out. I'm at the point where I can destroy a lot of enemies in one hit. That was close. So you gotta watch out for those guys that, I mean, if you see a platform, you know, across the way that you have to jump to, assume that there's gonna be an enemy that just spawns there. And that's gonna try to troll you. So the bosses in this game, they're really not that complicated. Just attack them. A lot of times you can just tank and take a lot of damage, because your health bar is pretty big in this game. And, you know, this was a game that I was able to beat with relative ease even when I was a kid. So, you know, those of you guys looking for an NES game that's not too difficult, that's pretty doable without a crap ton of practice, then this is a good one to try out. That's not to say there aren't any challenging parts, because like that marshy level that we got to, that level actually gave me trouble back in the day. And as you can see, it still gives me trouble sometimes if I'm not playing very carefully. But overall, the game's not, you know, you don't really have a timer or anything like that. You could just sit here all day if you wanted to. You know, sort of leave the game paused, but not really paused, because, you know, there's no timer. Yeah, the next set of levels are our final sets of stages. Wow, no main boss for that one. Okay, so this level is actually interesting. This is the only level in the game where you actually have to think a little bit. You have to hold up to go through these doors. But now it turns into a maze, and there's multiple doors you can go through. However, there's one way to tell which door you need to go through. And the way to tell is when a skeleton appears in front of the door. So there we go, skeleton appeared here, we need to go through this door. Just hold up. And we're just gonna rinse and repeat until we get to the boss, basically. Here's our next door. And actually, you don't even have to kill the skeleton. If you just tank and hold up, you can actually just skip the whole fight altogether if you decide you want to take some damage. You know, we can do it again here. And this is the last section of this stage. Sorry. Not to be confused with the rest of the game. We still have one more stage or two after this. We've got a boss rush. Oops. I froze time before he even spawned. What a waste. Whoa. Yeah, my power meter's so high, I'm killing these bosses really fast. Like, I didn't expect to kill that guy so quickly. Alright, so this is our final stage, and we have to go through a mini boss rush. Not a main boss rush, if I recall correctly, it's just a mini boss rush. So basically all the bosses that appear in normal gameplay and not those black boss screens, we have to fight them here. Of course, I'm trying to use my max power abilities to take them out very quickly. Again, you can just mash the button really quickly and do lots of little damage, but if you want to kill the bosses really fast, you can just let your power meter charge up all the way. Bam, 3 hits. Otherwise, I would have taken a lot more hits. So a fully charged power meter is really, really good. 1 hit. 2 hits, and we're tanking. 4 hits for him. That was 4 hits, right? I wasn't even really paying attention. I was like, that's 2 hits, and then I lost count. That's 3 for him, definitely. That Minotaur boss here, I think you're actually better off just attacking him really quickly. Because when you attack him quickly, he basically can't do his attack. When you're constantly attacking him, he can't attack. And he's the only, like, mini-boss that does a screen-wide attack, as far as I'm aware. So I ended up taking a lot of hits and absorbing a lot of hits, which is kind of bad. But I guess it doesn't really matter, because we get all our health back right now. Alright, so this is the actual final boss. Well, second to final boss. This is like his first form. But of course, he's no match for a maxed out power meter. And neither is the actual final boss. The actual final boss is no match for the freeze time ability and a maxed out power meter. So that dragon you saw was the actual final boss in the game. And since there's no way to skip this, I'm gonna go ahead and just let this play out. So that was Astyanax, guys. Again, very loosely based on the arcade game. It's got a similar combat system, but aside from that and a similar name, it's actually the same name but spelled differently, I believe. Is it spelled differently? No, I think it's actually spelled the same. Well, I have no idea. I gotta see the arcade game again and see if it's actually spelled the same. I thought it was spelled a little bit different. But it's a pretty cool game. I dig this game. I still like to go back to it, run through it once in a while. And, you know, for those of you guys that actually like to collect NES games, it's still a pretty cheap game if I recall correctly. It's one of those games you can get for a few bucks. And as a game, if you're gaming, I think it's totally worth it. It's a solid game. You know, it's not like a Ninja Gaiden or Batman, but it's, you know, it's still a really solid game, and I do recommend trying it out if you're a fan of classic NES games. For those of you guys with the PC engines or TurboGrafx, there also is the Legendary Axe, which is a really cool game, but considerably more challenging. But it also has a very, very similar combat system with the charging power meter thing. So basically, you know, your meter gets charged up, and it unleashes more damage if you can attack while it's charged up. So... oh yeah, I should probably just mention this story a little bit since we're here. You're basically a high school kid that somehow gets zapped to this alternate dimension, and then is asked to be like the hero or something weird like that. Pretty typical stuff. And you go do your thing, and then, you know, they detail the story in the cutscenes between levels, much like a Ninja Gaiden or something like that. Again, the story is not really all that enthralling. It's not like Ninja Gaiden, where the story is actually pretty good. But it is there, and if you're the kind of person that cares about that, you know, you can watch the cutscenes between each stage. But that's sort of the basis for the story. Nothing terribly special there. So, but alright guys, I think I've explained everything about the game as we play through it. I mean, there's a couple like power-up icons there, health refills and stuff like that I think were pretty obvious. I didn't really point them out. But, I can't think of anything else to talk about gameplay-wise. But, yeah, so that's Astyanax, guys. Not the Astyanax, that's what the arcade game's called. They call it the Astyanax, or the Astyanax. In the arcade. The NES, it's just called Astyanax. And yeah. So, hope you guys enjoy this Let's Play. I will be back with another Let's Play sometime soon. And, yeah, I'll see you guys later. Take it easy.